It's hard to comprehend how Judas Iscariot could be so close to Jesus and betray him. That is until we think about how many times that we've gone to Mass and then less than 24 hours later, we've fallen in some way into sin. Though the acts and the magnitude differ greatly, there is still something in this gospel that is meant to challenge anyone who needs to be humbled, or perhaps to appreciate the fragility of our faithfulness to Jesus. Like the first disciples, as we grow in appreciation of God's love for us, the ultimate sacrifice of Jesus' life to save us, we naturally strive to follow his example and to live lives of virtue, lives of holiness. But from time to time, we tire, or we get frustrated, or we get discouraged. And at times, we give into temptation, and we choose the wrong instead of the good. Holy Week is such a special time for us to give thanks to God for our salvation, and at the same time to seek his mercy. But first, we need to take an honest look at how we're doing right now. This week, I had coffee with a friend, and near the beginning of the conversation, he said, "Father Dave, how are you doing?" Just a regular question. I said, "Busy, but good," instead of fine and dandy. Then we shifted on to something else. In fact, I shifted on to something else. And we talked for a while about lots of things. But as we were wrapping up, my friend looked me right in the eye and said, "Hey, Father Dave, let me ask you again, how are you doing?" This time, I gave him a more in-depth answer. It's amazing how those who know us the best and really care will ask those questions not once, not twice, but sometimes more. Those are the questions that we really need to look at. This Lent, but especially this week, Jesus is asking each of us, how are you doing? Jesus wants to know if we are anxious or at peace, if we are hopeful or discouraged. He wants to know if we are finding joy in following him, or perhaps struggling with doubt. And there's so many other questions, including he wants to ask us, do we need to be forgiven? It's Peter, not Judas, who most of us resemble in our spiritual journeys. At the Last Supper, Peter wanted to know who would betray Jesus. You can imagine that Peter asked with a sense of anger that a brother disciple would betray not only Jesus, but also the others. And yet Peter overestimated his own ability to withstand temptation in the garden and would deny knowing Jesus 3 times, only hours after sharing the Last Supper, and claiming that he would lay down his life for Jesus. My brothers and sisters, in these final days before the Triduum, let us pray for and let us pray with our families and our friends. Let us pray for the strength to seek forgiveness in confession and with each other, and the grace to continue to stay close to Jesus in how we speak and act between each holy sacrifice of the Mass. And may we recognize the gift of our faith and strengthen it through prayer, through the Mass, and through confession, letting Jesus nourish and heal us in these holy days.